The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's show is going to be an interesting one. We are going to be presenting an article tonight that proves a former show that we did. For those that have been with the show for a long, long time, we've been doing this for over 3 years now, and I believe in year one, we did an episode about HAARP and weather modification. And I'm not going to lie to you, we caught so much flack over that show because it was labeled as conspiracy theories and people were saying that we were crazy, that we sounded like Alex Jones, all this kind of nonsense, right? So I came across this article and I wanted to share it with the audience so that those of you who have been with us a long, long time can see that when we did that original show, we weren't lying to you. We weren't making things up. We were telling you the truth. And this proves that weather modification does in fact exist. And I decided to get this not from some website that you've barely ever heard of, but I went straight to the bastion for all the liberal people that call me a conspiracy theorist, CNN. I went to CNN for this article. So this article comes from CNN, and the headline is China to expand weather modification program to cover area larger than India. And it was updated on December 3rd, 2020. The original article comes from a couple years ago, but it was just updated here in December. Hong Kong. China this week revealed plans to drastically expand an experimental weather modification program to cover an area of over 5.5 million square kilometers, or 2.1 million square miles, more than 1.5 times the total size of India. According to a statement from the State Council, China will have a developed weather modification system by 2025, thanks to breakthroughs in fundamental research and key technologies, as well as improvements in comprehensive prevention against safety risks. In the next 5 years, the total area covered by artificial rain or snowfall will reach 5.5 million square kilometers, while over 580,000 square kilometers or 224,000 square miles will be covered by hail suppression technologies. The statement added that the program will help with disaster relief, agricultural production, emergency responses to forest and grassland fires, and dealing with unusually high temperatures or droughts. China has long sought to control the weather, to protect farming areas, and to ensure clear skies for key events. It seeded clouds ahead of the 2008 Beijing Olympics to reduce smog and avoid rain ahead of the competition. Key political meetings held in the Chinese capital are notorious for enjoying beautiful clear skies, thanks to both weather modification and the shutting down of nearby factories. As a concept, cloud seeding has been around for decades. It works by injecting small amounts of silver iodide into clouds with a lot of moisture, which then condenses around the new particles, becoming heavier and eventually falling as precipitation. A study funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation, published earlier this year, found that cloud seeding can boost snowfall across a wide area if the atmospheric conditions are favorable. The study was one of the first to ascertain definitively that cloud seeding worked, as previously it had been difficult to distinguish precipitation created as a result of the practice from normal snowfall. That uncertainty had not stopped China investing heavily in the technology. Between 2012 and 2017, the country spent over $1.34 billion on various weather modification programs. Last year, according to state news agency Xinhua, weather modification helped reduce 70% of hail damage in China's western region of Xinjiang, a key agricultural area. And while other countries have also invested in cloud seeding, including the U.S., China's enthusiasm for the technology has created some alarm, particularly in neighboring India, where agriculture is heavily dependent on the monsoon, which has already been disrupted and become less predictable as a result of climate change. India and China recently faced off along their shared and hotly disputed border in the Himalayas, with the two sides engaging in their bloodiest clash in decades earlier this year. For years, some in India have speculated that weather modification could potentially give China the edge in a future conflict. Given the importance of conditions to any troop movements in the inhospitable mountain region. Though the primary focus of Beijing's weather modification appears to be domestic, experts have warned there is the potential for impact beyond the country's borders. In a paper last year, researchers at National Taiwan University said that the lack of proper coordination of weather modification activity could lead to charges of rain stealing between neighboring regions, both within China and with other countries. They also pointed to the lack of a system of checks and balances to facilitate the implementation of potentially controversial projects. The scientific evidence and political justification for weather modification is not subject to debate or broad discussion in China, the authors wrote. In addition, the leadership's propensity for technological intervention in taming different weather systems is rarely challenged by alternative viewpoints. Some experts have speculated that success in weather modification could lead China to adopt more ambitious geoengineering projects, particularly as the country suffers from the effects of climate change. Radical solutions such as seeding the atmosphere with reflective particles could theoretically help reduce temperatures, but could also have major unforeseen consequences, and many experts fear what could happen were a country to experiment with such techniques. Without regulation, one country's efforts could affect other countries, according to Dhanasri Jairam, a climate expert at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education in Karnataka, India. While China has not yet shown signs of unilaterally deploying geoengineering projects on the ground, the scale of its weather modification and other massive engineering projects, including megadam projects such as the Three Gorges, suggests that China is willing to deploy large-scale geoengineering schemes to tackle the impacts of climate change and achieve its Paris targets. And that is the end of this article. Now, there are multiple things in this article that are very interesting. The first interesting thing is that they keep talking about climate change in an article about China manipulating the weather. So you have an article about China manipulating the climate, and they keep referring to climate change as well. I don't think that is a coincidence. Because not only can you make it rain and make it snow through cloud seeding, but as you can see in this article, China is able to keep it from raining as well. They did so during the Olympics. They're also able to heat up the temperature of the planet if they choose. China can do that. Russia can do that. The United States can do that. This is done by use of lasers and other technologies to actually superheat the air in the area. So one thing I'm going to say in this episode that's going to be controversial as hell is when they talk about man-made climate change, a lot of that quote-unquote man-made climate change is actually done on purpose by governments manipulating the weather. That, I'm sure, will be proven definitively at some point in the public to where I can bring you that evidence of it. But I know that this stuff is going on behind the scenes, so to speak. Now, if you remember correctly, when we did this show 3 years ago on HARP, I talked about different ways that they could increase the temperature and lower the temperature and all that kind of stuff. Now, I talked about all of this stuff 3 years ago on the episode that we did of Staring. Here you have an article from December of this year that is proving what I said 3 years ago true. So for all of those that called me a conspiracy theorist, all those that said that I sound like Alex Jones, right here is your proof. And it's coming from CNN, your holy grail of news. I just read it to you. China is manipulating the weather. The United States is manipulating the weather. Now you might say, well, why? That doesn't make any sense. Why would China and why would the United States want to increase the temperature of the planet? Why was that something that they want to do? The answer to that question is Antarctica. Now, Antarctica is a very special place. And there's all kinds of theories about stuff that goes on in Antarctica. There's all kinds of different ideas and different crazy things that have been said. All the way from reptilian lizard people living inside the earth and having an exit that comes out through Antarctica, all the way to there's an entrance into the middle of the earth that's hollow earth that you can reach through Antarctica. There's all kinds of stuff. But another thing that Antarctica has that isn't quite so fantastical is a hell of a lot of natural resources. We're talking oil, we're talking gold, silver, all those kind of things. It is an untouched and untapped gold mine, so to speak, for all of these natural resources. Nobody has been there to extract any of them. Now, how would you get to them if they're all covered in ice? Well, the answer to that question is you would raise the temperature so that it's not quite so cold there and it's accessible. This also ties in with an article that I did on Paranormal News about China creating super soldiers through genetic manipulation. If you have not seen that video, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. It's there. You can watch the video. I read the entire article and I talk about it. Essentially, what China is doing is trying to create an army of super soldiers through genetic manipulation. And one of the things that they have been successful at doing through that genetic manipulation is creating soldiers that are impervious to cold. So their soldiers that they have done the manipulation on do not get cold. They're able to fight in Arctic situations without having to worry about frostbite and hypothermia and all of those things that would affect a normal soldier. Now, there's also been talk that China has been doing war games and maneuvers in Canada. And a lot of people are theorizing that they are attempting or preparing to invade the United States. I don't believe that that is the case at all. I think the reason why China is doing maneuvers and war games in Canada, northern Canada, is the same reason that Russia does it in Siberia, and why we do it up in Alaska and Greenland. The reason is because we are all preparing for the next battlefield. The next battleground is going to be in Antarctica. And if you are going to fight a war in Antarctica in Arctic conditions, even if you can heat the planet up to make it not quite as cold, it's still going to be cold as hell there. So, one way to better prepare your soldiers to fight in an environment like that is by making them impervious to cold. And that's where the genetic manipulation to create super soldiers comes in. Now, I have another article that I am getting ready to do an episode of Paranormal News on within the next couple days that just came out that talks about France is now doing genetic manipulation on their armies as well to create super soldiers. So that's another country that is publicly admitting that they're doing this. Very interesting stuff. So what I'm going to do, I can talk more about this, but first I want to throw over to Old Boy, and I want to get his opinion before I go too much further on the article and on the genetic manipulation of the soldiers that I did on Paranormal News, and the news now that France has openly admitted to doing the same thing, and about weather manipulation. So, Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
And thank you, brother. And good evening, guys. Sorry about that. First thing I'm going to say, so we can get into this real quick, is I've been hearing about cloud seeding since I was a kid. This conspiracy thing, I guess my grandfather was, because he was never into it, like Alex Jones, and I don't even want to get into that. But I've been hearing this since I was 6 or 7 for the last almost 30-something years. So this isn't a conspiracy thing. He's been telling me it for 30 years. My grandfather passed away about 15 years ago. But I've heard about this for over 30 years. This isn't something new. I'm not surprised about it one bit. This conspiracy thing that we're, Alex Jones, we're in James, there's nothing like me and James. Let's get this straight right now. What we do in shows, what happened 3 years ago, we do articles. Doesn't mean just because we do a show about it that we 100% agree with it either. I think that's what happens. Some people just read the top article and don't listen to the whole show. Alex Jones is a different person that altogether. We don't talk about politics too much on this show or get into what he is. And me and James have totally a different opinion on that. So, but cloud seeding is something I've been hearing since I was a kid that we've been doing. And the desert used to get a lot of snow and rain. Now it doesn't, because I've been hearing we can control this our clouds in the first state. They seed them so they won't get as much rain. I think this is done for purpose, manipulation. People, you guys are crazy. You know what? Why would CNN have it? You guys, that's like the biggest, talk about, this whole situation. They always talk about, they're the ones who have, it's their article. And it is probably the next way of warfare. That in space, I think it's also being used, and here's my opinion, is when we go to other planets like Mars, we can make our own atmosphere, our own bring water, so we can have an atmosphere and change it from Mars to Earth too, if you want to call it that, like the show. And that's what I think also. And that's another point we didn't talk about a minute ago with this. I do believe China's probably doing this. They do have that technology. I think we have it. I think a lot of countries have it. And it's going to be Antarctica. There's something there that everybody wants to fight for. Let's not get it wrong. We have to do a show about Antarctica all together, all the alien stuff. We could do a couple shows about Antarctica. That's a show in all itself, or 2 or 3 of them. There's stuff there hidden. There's supposed to be alien ships there. There's supposed to be weird looking creatures there. Russia knew it. We knew it. We all knew it. This conspiracy thing, they said aliens doesn't exist. Now they're admitting it. You know what? Start realizing, stop listening to what they tell you. Of course, they want you to not believe this stuff. It's true. I'm not saying 100% of it. Yes, it's always lies everywhere. I'll agree with you on that. People want to make money and they lie about anything to get money. I ain't going to tell you some of these people are crazy. We're not. We're just trying to read the facts to you. We're not saying we 100% agree with it. We never said, we believe everything it's written. So people need to start realizing we're not like that. I'm a different person than James Hershey. We have different beliefs in everything that we do. There's nothing like us. He's a born again Christian, and I'm a pagan / you wouldn't call me. Some people are going to call me a Satanist, whatever you want to call me. I don't care. We are totally different. There's nothing like us. So when we do these shows, people are going to say whatever they want. Call James Alex Jones. He is far from Alex Jones. He doesn't even agree with Alex Jones stuff. And yes, James has his opinions on religion and politics, but he doesn't talk about it. Alex Jones is out there, guys, and I have my opinions on him, and we don't even. I don't get where that comes from. That's a whole different thing. He talks about other stuff we don't even talk about, and I think that's what it is. I think people are so easy to jump on that, judging people for just having an opinion they don't want to hear, and that's what the problem is. And I don't care. It may be controversial. I don't care. I'll go out on a limb, but this clouds stuff has been going for a while. I've been hearing it since I was a kid. Like I was saying, guys, I got a little angry because of what he said earlier. And I apologize to the people who listen to our show. It's pointless to talk about, but I believe it's happening. I think I agree with him. I don't know about the Canadian thing. Maybe they are doing. I think we are too. I think we've been practicing ourselves in Alaska, what I've heard. And France too. Of course, everybody wants Antarctica because there's something there in the ice. I believe that. This is going to be alien terrestrial stuff, I think, is there. I think there's other things. There's a reason we're going there. I think there's other reasons we're doing it too. But if you control the weather, you control the world. Remember that, guys. Look at what's happening in some of the deserts in California, especially where I live, drought. Well, we're starting to get out of it, but look at all the fires from the years before that. Well, we'll give you rain. You'll never have drought again. But it's going to cost you $1 trillion. What do you think you're going to do? You're going to pay them to come in there and put up machines. It'll bring jobs, but it's China going to make a bunch of money. Or we do it. We're going to do it to China. You guys want to get rid of smog? Well, it's going to cost you $10 trillion. Think about it, guys. It's another way to make money. And that's what it's going to be. I'm telling you, it's going to be used that in military crap. Well, you want to send 5-star tornadoes? I'm just saying this, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. Well, I'm going to send you a typhoon. It knocks out your whole country. You see what I'm saying? It can be used as a weapon. I'll freeze your whole country. I'll make it Antarctica. Well, yeah, I'll make your whole country underwater. I'll typhoon it. Or hurricane. The biggest better. Think about it. And there's no way of stopping that. That's a whole different thing. It ain't like stopping a nuclear bomb or a rocket or a laser in space. Think about how deadly this could be as a weapon. I want you guys to think about that for a minute. Think about it. I can make thunderstorms in, let me show you a place that doesn't get it too much, where it'd be crazy. Like bad thunderstorms, like Canada or something. I know they probably do, but like all the time, like every day, but like violent, where it knocks out your electricity. You don't have any electricity anymore. Well, you quit doing that, I'll pay you this amount of money. I'm just showing you examples. Oh yeah, I'll flood your whole country. Then what are you going to do? Well, we won't flood your country if you give us this certain amount of money. Think about it, guys. It is going to be a weapon. You could think whatever you want, but this is true. He makes a very good point on this. James does. It's going to be used as a weapon. It's going to be to the highest bidder. This is how we're going to fight wars, because we know we can blow up the world. No, everybody got to get this. Oh, we're going to shoot off nukes. Everybody knows now, if people shoot nukes off, it's done. Our world's over with. Yeah, we'll shoot some down, whatever, but everybody knows we can blow up. Even people say North Korea is not going to, unless their country is going to get blown up, they're not that stupid. Everybody knows the consequences. When you shoot a nuclear weapon, there's going to be one shot right back at you. It's going to cause nothing but problems. And people don't realize when you shoot a nuke off, the radiation, especially those kind of nukes, it's going to destroy the whole world pretty much. We're not going to have maybe 1% of the population, 5 maybe, after the aftermath. So people need to realize this is another way to fight a war without killing everybody. Australia has all these droughts. You give us $200 trillion, you won't have droughts anymore. That's the way to do it. That's how I'm going to talk to you guys with this. This is how you get rid of it. You give us this amount of money. No one's going to have that kind of money. Well, we'll take payments, guys. You just pay us 10 billion a year, month. I'm just showing you examples. You know what I mean? I'm just giving a figure there. Well, that's more affordable than $100 trillion or $200 trillion, whatever I said. But I can pay you guys that, and then the drought's gone. And China is another part of, or whoever. I'm not just saying China. It could be America. It could be England. It could be. I'm just showing you an example. India, and they can make millions and billions of dollars for their country. And this could change the whole tide. Whoever gets this technology. It's another way to win a war without even throwing a bomb. Whoever gets this technology, and I think everybody's pretty much messing around with it. It isn't just China, and we are. I've heard about it for years. My grandfather was in the military, so I've heard about this. James's family's in the military. James' family worked at things I can't even talk about. That's why I laugh when people say that, because James actually does know what he's talking about. He used to work for the government. He just doesn't talk about it because he can't. And it's not he's making it up. I know for a fact he does. That's why I think it's funny when everybody says that. I've known James for 6 years. He just doesn't make this stuff up, guys. You know, just because he reads an article or he puts it up doesn't mean he 100% agrees with it. He knows there's people going to have their own agendas. You know, he looks into that. He doesn't go, well, I just read this article like most people do, and that's the truth. That's gospel. He looks it up. He looks other articles up. Trust me. He knows there's people all, you know, even if you're on somebody's side, you all know that they're going to stretch the truth to a point to make people want to believe theirs. We know they're adding to it, exaggerating it. We're not that stupid. So that's what I think. Awesome story, because you know what? This is cool. This is something I'm glad we did this show. It was something really cool and different. It's something that people should start realizing is going to happen soon. And it could be a whole lot worse. Think about it. I could drop, maybe another kind of weapon can make a volcano erupt. If we have volcanoes in America erupts, the whole world's going to suffer or end. So, or any other country that has volcanoes. Now, you know about it. Imagine if you could make America to Antarctica again. You kill everything in the country, you're done. I don't care who you are. Trust there's going to probably be consequences to that, and we're going to do something back to them. But basically, everybody knows that. So it's the way we do wars is we threaten people now, because we know what we can do. Just like we know China can do stuff, we know we can. But whoever gets the upper hand on each other, who's going to pay the money for it? Technology is what it's always going to come down to. It's money, power, and war. It's always going to be like that, guys. There's nothing you can do about it. But Antarctica, I think, is the holy grail. There's something there that everybody wants. Their stories. We've talked about it on other shows. We need to do a show about Antarctica, about the stuff that's been found there. But I believe stuff's going to be in the Mars, the moon. This is all being tested for other places. Think about it. If you can go to Mars or the moon and change the atmosphere there to put oxygen, you can do it if you have certain equipment. That's what I think they're doing this to make other planets. Like they're already made, but you know what? Make it livable, because I think people know the Earth isn't going to last forever. We all know that. But if you can get Mars, it's what? 10 times bigger than, I don't know exactly. James would know that one, but it's at least 6 to 10 times bigger than Earth. You could fit, instead of there's almost 8 billion people, around that 8 billion, you could fit 100 billion people or more, and it wouldn't make a difference then. So other than that, guys, I don't really have much to say on this. I'm not this is a big thing for James. He loves all this, but this actually, I like this. I've been hearing this since I was a kid. So I'm glad he brought this up because it brought me memories of my grandfather telling me about cloud seeding and how they could control the rain and all that. He used to tell me stories about it back then, 30 years ago in the 90s, the early 90s and the late 80s. I've been hearing this. So it's nothing new, but it's cool to find out it's true. So there you go, James.
Okay, really, really quick. Before I get on to the next part I'm going to talk about, Mars is actually smaller than Earth. It's about half the size of Earth. What makes Mars so attractive is not that it's bigger, it's that it's further away. It's further away from the sun. That's the important part. The reason that's important is because as our sun goes through its life, it will continue to grow larger before it eventually dies and implodes on itself and becomes a black hole. But when the sun expands to the next phase, it will get larger and it will get a hell of a lot hotter here to where it's not going to be livable here. So we're going to have to move further away from the sun to survive. So the wonderful thing about Mars is it's farther away from the sun, but it is half the size of Earth. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, I made some pretty amazing and fantastic statements so far on this show. I told you that our government, as well as other governments around the world, have the capability to increase the temperature wherever they want. We also talked about them being able to make it rain, to create and steer storms, and even to create massive wildfires and stuff like that. Now, all of those statements are pretty fantastic. And to the untrained ear, they sound very implausible, like they couldn't happen. So let's get to the nuts and bolts of this thing. Let me explain to you how they do this. Because once you know how they do it, then it will not be so unbelievable to you. First, we'll talk about cloud seeding. Now, the article talks about that, how they inject the clouds with particles. What happens is water collects on these particles. They become very heavy, and they fall as rain. So you can essentially make it rain wherever you want because you can increase the amount of whatever particular particle you're using, and you will make the clouds bigger, you'll make the clouds denser, and the rain will fall. So you can make it rain. Now you increase the temperature in a particular area through the use of high intensity lasers and direct energy weapons. Okay? Look up both of those things. That's a little nugget for you. A little kernel that you can take and you can research on your own, and you can learn a hell of a lot more about how all of this is done and what they are doing with it. And once you start going down that path, you will realize this is not science fiction. This is fact. This is happening, okay? During the wildfires, each time, it's kind of funny how they always have these massive fires, and you'll have neighborhoods where one house is burnt totally to the ground, and houses on every side of it are still standing with no fire damage whatsoever. And you wonder, well, how the hell did that happen? That's a clue that tells you something strange is going on here. If they want to start a fire like that, they can do so with a direct energy weapon or a high intensity laser that will actually superheat the air exactly where they point it. And if they point it into the woods in an area that has, like especially California, who the idiots that run California haven't figured out yet that you have to clean all the brush out of the damn woods, otherwise a fire will start, because all you have is a ton of kindling when you don't practice proper forest management and clean your forest floor. You have tons of dead trees, sticks, leaf litter, all kinds of undergrowth growing up, and it's a tinderbox. So when you increase the temperature like that, you make it hot, it gets past that flash point, boom, baby, you got a fire. And that's what's being done. Now, you can also raise the temperature in an area the same way. By using high intensity lasers and direct energy weapons, they can actually superheat the air. Now, this is useful not only for quote unquote climate change, but also for steering large storms like hurricanes. Because if you heat the air or cool the air in certain areas, that will direct the travel of that particular storm. Hot air, cold air. One makes the storm larger, one makes the storm stronger. One makes the storm more intense, one makes the storm less intense. So if you want to steer the storm towards a particular country, and you want that storm to be a humdinger of a storm, a phase 5 or something like that, a category 5 hurricane or something like that that's really going to jack the place up, then you're going to heat the air in certain areas in order for it to build that pressure up and to fuel that storm and get it really mad and angry and boiling and just rip-roaring mad. And then that sucker roars through there and tears every damn thing up. Now, if you have a storm coming and you don't want it to mess anything up, you're going to cool that air down. You're going to seed the clouds in certain areas so that the rain falls, so that it doesn't have that extra fuel with the hot air currents, and it doesn't have that extra fuel of the extra moisture in the air to feed it. That's how they're doing these things. Now, old boy talked about geoforming and terraforming of other planets. This technology would be useful once you have an atmosphere there to kind of control the weather in a way, because how you're going to terraform or geoform a planet is with plant life, essentially. That's the first step, is you have to plant plants that will produce oxygen, because the oxygen is going to form your atmosphere. Without the oxygen, you ain't got nothing. You got to have the oxygen in the atmosphere in order for it to form that shell that will keep the atmosphere in. Otherwise, it all just floats away into space, see? But if you have a high oxygen level in your atmosphere, then not only can we survive there, but that gives the building blocks for every other kind of life. Now, plants don't breathe oxygen. They breathe carbon dioxide, but they take in oxygen. So if you plant a whole bunch of plants, they're going to produce oxygen as a waste product. And that's going to help form your atmosphere and make it survivable for us. Now, with a lot of plants, you need a lot of water. That's where cloud seeding and all of this technology will come in handy once you have the forest of plants established to help produce the rain that's going to continually grow them and make them lush and make everything work. But first, you got to have an atmosphere. That's where the plants come in. So this technology is useful once you have the process underway of terraforming the planet. It's not really great for the full process, if that makes sense. Now, this being used as a weapon, that's the other thing old boy was talking about. And that is a very, very good point. Because in this article, remember, India is concerned. India's kind of a little bit pissed off at China because China is stealing its rain. Now, the way they're stealing the rain is by seeding clouds and having the rain fall before it even reaches India. Now, are they doing this because China wants more rain? Not really. They're doing it because they don't like India. China and India don't get along. They're not friends. They kind of hate each other. And India relies on their monsoon seasons for like 3/4 of their agriculture, which is a huge, huge section of their economy. So if you can take away the rain so that India can't grow as many crops because they don't have the monsoon anymore, then you literally destroy India's economy and you bring India to its knees. And that's exactly what China's doing to India. And that's why India's like, hey, whoa, man, that's not cool. But there's really not a whole lot India's going to be able to do about it, to be honest with you, because I think China would kick India's ass in a fight. So that's the nuts and bolts of how these things are done. I thought that was important to bring to you so that you understand that this is not simply some conspiracy. This is not simply some out there theory that people are speculating about. Okay, there's actual science here. There's a methodology to how you do these things. It's not like we say, oh, they just made it rain. Well, how did they make it rain? Well, I don't know. No, we know. We know exactly how they did it. The information is there. And like I said, I gave you those breadcrumbs. Look into direct energy weapons. Look into high intensity lasers. Look into even different radar signals and ground penetrating radar signals and stuff like that they beam down from space that are used to cause earthquakes and all those kind of things. That's a little more advanced and a little deeper down the rabbit hole. But if you're into this kind of thing and you enjoy that, have fun with it. Old boy talked about volcanoes as well. One volcano that we have right here in the United States, which is a super volcano, is underneath of Yellowstone. And if that puppy goes off, it's lights out for a big portion of the country. And I don't mean lights out like we're not going to have Netflix anymore. I mean lights out like you dead. You gone. You ain't coming back. Essentially what we're going to have is what happened to the dinosaurs. We're going to have a layer of ash that goes up into the upper atmosphere and blocks the sun out for a portion of our planet. And if it is a super volcano eruption, it might be an extinction level event, to be honest with you, depending on how big it is. At the very least, it's going to kill probably tens of millions of people here in the United States. You're going to have people that die from the initial blast. You're going to have people that die from a coal miner's lung, from breathing in the dust. Because, see, the volcanic dust is not just dust. It has little microscopic shards of rock inside of it. And if you look at it underneath the microscope, it's scary as hell looking. It's got all these sharp points. It looks like one of those medieval maces. And the dust is full of it. So when you breathe it in, what happens is it goes down into your lungs, and those little bitty microscopic rock particles actually slice and perforate your lungs. And you basically drown on your own blood. It's absolutely horrifying way to go. And you're going to have a lot of people to die from that. And then you're going to have agriculture wiped out in the West Coast, and even as far as the breadbasket of the United States, the Great Plains areas of Illinois and Indiana and Kansas and all those areas. You're not going to be able to grow anything there because there's not going to be sunlight that hits that area. Now, not only will that hurt the United States, because that is called the breadbasket for a damn good reason, because it supplies food to not only our country, but most of the world, to be honest with you. So not only is the United States going to be in big trouble if that thing goes off, but there's going to be a significant portion of the world that might starve to death as well, because there's just not going to be the amount of food production necessary to sustain all the people on Earth. It's just not going to happen anymore, because we produce a hell of a lot of food there. And that's going to be a problem, a big problem. Now, the scary thing is you don't necessarily have to have weather modification to cause Yellowstone to go off. It's actually supposed to have already happened. It's overdue by thousands of years. It was supposed to already happen a long, long time ago. We are way overdue for that eruption. So literally it could happen at any moment. And if you follow the news, I'm sure you've heard at least one story about an increase in earthquake activity in the Yellowstone area, in the park and the surrounding area. That's significant. That's very important, because not only are you having more earthquakes, you're having much stronger earthquakes. They're much more severe. And what that means is you got some stuff boiling down there. Okay, you got more frequent activity, you have stronger activity, closer together. Think of it like giving birth. You have contractions. When the contractions get closer apart, what does that mean? That means that baby's about to come out. Same thing here. When the contractions, the Earth's contractions, which are the earthquakes, get closer together like that and more severe, that means it's about to blow. So it could literally happen at any time. Now, there's a lot of different plans on how to fix that. There's plans of drilling down into the volcano and trying to shoot water down there with a high pressure hose to try to cool it. I don't think that's going to work. I think what you might end up doing is causing a gigantic explosion, much like some of those old steam engines blew up back in the day. That's a possibility. I think that we're messing with forces here we don't understand, and I think that it's crazy to do anything like that has a potential to cause that thing to go off. Now, it's going to go off anyway, eventually. The only thing we can hope is that we're all dead by the time it happens, is that it happens a couple hundred years from now or 1,000 years from now or something. But we're well overdue for it, so it could literally happen at any moment. So anyway, that is about all I have to say about the weather modification, everything like that. I could go on for hours, honestly, talking about the science and going way down deep into the rabbit hole with you if you wanted to. But the show is pretty much over, so I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his final sum-ups, and then we'll do shout-outs and all that.
Thank you, brother. So everybody knows, I'm not the brilliant scientist like he is, so I don't remember who's bigger. I think it's Jupiter. It's bigger than Earth. So if I was wrong, oh well, no big deal. He's the one that knows all this, not me. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was really cool. I've been hearing about it for a while, and I really believe it's probably happening. I don't doubt it one bit. You know how everybody is. They want to make money off of it. And it's another way of, another weapon. It's going to be used eventually. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, guys. I'm glad you guys following us on YouTube, on James Hershey's YouTube page. Subscribe and listen to all our old shows and the new one. This show will probably be out in a couple days. I know it's Christmas Eve tomorrow, guys, and Christmas this week. So I hope you guys all have a happy holidays, happy Yule, happy Hanukkah, happy Merry Christmas. I hope you guys enjoy it with your family, even if I know there's a lot of things going on with the COVID. If you can't be with them, just keep them in your mind, in your heart. And I hope everybody's enjoyed this show. You guys want to check us out on Parax Radio. Thank you guys. We love you guys. Every Sunday night, technically Monday morning on the East Coast. We appreciate it. And whatever radio venues we're on, there's a whole bunch of them. And I'm glad you guys listen to us every week. So you guys want any merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Shirts, cups, all kinds of cool stuff, covert mask. And that's about it, guys. Happy holidays, Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Hunters, Demon Lovers, and blessed be. Have a good night. Be safe.
Yeah, as Old Boy said, tomorrow night is Christmas Eve for us. Now, when you're listening to this, it's going to be airing Sunday night on ParaX. So it will have already been Christmas. But for us right now, as we're recording this episode, it is the day before Christmas Eve. It's Wednesday night. So Christmas is almost here. And with Christmas being almost here, I wanted to say something that kind of bothers me. Every year you hear about the war on Christmas, and people get upset if you go in a store and somebody says Merry Christmas to you, or if somebody says Happy Holidays to you, or whatever. Whatever side you're on that whole issue, people get butthurt about it either way. Now here's what I think about it, and maybe you haven't thought about it this way. As Old Boy said in the beginning of the show, and as everybody who listens regularly knows, I am not only a born-again Christian, I'm a pastor. So there is no doubt where I stand as far as Jesus Christ goes, as far as Christmas goes, all of that. But with that being said, it is absolutely stupid to get upset if somebody wishes you Merry Christmas. It's stupid to get upset if somebody wishes you Happy Hanukkah, or Happy Ramadan, or Merry Yule or Happy Festivus or whatever holiday you want to be. You know, old boy was on Facebook the other day wishing everybody a happy winter solstice. You know, it's stupid to get upset about that. If somebody is wishing you a happy whatever, they're wishing you joy. They're wishing you happiness. They're wishing you good, positive vibes. Why would you get upset about that? Just because it doesn't have the exact name that you want it to have? Who cares? So where I stand on that issue is I say Merry Christmas because I'm a Christian and that's what I believe. But if you tell me Happy Winter Solstice, I'm going to say thank you, man. I appreciate that. If you tell me Happy Hanukkah, I'm going to say cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. I appreciate the sentiment that you are sending me love and you are sending me joy. I'm all good with that. So basically my message here is to everyone listening, Merry Christmas. Or whatever holiday you celebrate, Merry whatever. And let's just all try not to take ourselves so seriously. I mean, sometimes people get upset about silly ass things. And it's really not worth arguing about. So with that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I'm so glad that you're listening. And as Old Boy said, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. You got every episode of Staring, the Tales. You've got paranormal news there. I even do video game plays there, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a hell of a lot of fun, completely free. Please go subscribe to the channel and just enjoy it, man. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos there. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's where all the merch is. If you're someone who is into merch and you want to support the show, it's a great way to do it. I think the way we're going to end this show is the same way I ended last week's show. Because tomorrow is Christmas Eve for us, so I'm going to end this playing John Hammond's new Christmas song. John Hammond is the guy that does our theme song. The one, all these voices that plays in the beginning. He's the one that does that song. He's a great friend of mine, been a friend of mine since high school, long, long ago. And a very, very, very talented musician. And he wrote a new Christmas song and just recorded it. And he is kind enough to let us use it. So we're going to end with that. And I hope that all of you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and a happy new year. And I will catch you on the next one. Until I speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do I. Bye-bye.
I will have a Christmas in my heart, and try to keep it out here. I will not shut out the limits of the past. No, no, no. Oh, peace, peace.